profile pic.
Yeah.
No. Do you want Bear in this? You'd be running around like a crazy guy.
Trying to have my speech.
Jackson, I like your plan.
I would start it.
Trying to reconnect, you know.
But this is like Martin Garrett, and someone has the opportunity to buy my ticket.
Respect it. I respect it.
You don't even ask the date, you ask the time.
Like these?
Except last time he was open to
Keep going. Here? Okay, now it should work.
Done. Look at Steve.
You gotta specify which one you're talking about.
Steve Gats.
No, I know.
We were getting a great reception until
That's because all these kids are on the Wi-Fi. Your fault.
Yeah, when you're talking, are you talking to the everything? The whole thing set up?
No, I'm gonna provide some.
what happened. It does. Yeah, what time did they say that?
Time's it now.
Is it working? No?
The internet's just...
Thank you. Still not working?
That's all right. That's good.
Emily's making an announcement to turn the Wi-Fi off.
It's all good.
Yeah, but there's a lot. I'm sure there's a lot of people because there's not a lot of families here. Okay.
It's fine. I got a backup.
Good afternoon. Thank you. It is my honor to be able to welcome all of you, students, faculty, staff, parents, extended families, trustees, to the 2021-2022 Baccalaureate ceremony. What a joy to have guests on campus again. Before we begin, I ask that everyone please check their phones to make sure that their phone is either off or on silent. While you have your phones out, I would also appreciate if you could please turn your phone to airplane mode or turn off the Wi-Fi, as receiving Wi-Fi is interrupting our ability to live stream the program. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the fact that on your programs, there are a couple mentions of Acting Head of School, Mary Warner, coming up and giving remarks. Unfortunately, in true 2022 fashion, Mary cannot be here as she has COVID, but we have some good substitutions in place for you. I'd now like to welcome Mr. Lundblade, Chair of the History Department, to the podium for the invocation.
Yes, Lundblade.
Good afternoon. Class of 2022, family, friends, teachers, staff, trustees of Hebron Academy, I want to welcome everyone formally to this year's Baccalaureate ceremony. To the soon-to-be graduates, you are nearing the day you've been waiting for, the day when each of you will leave this place set forth on a new adventure. Our world is in a constant state of change, and in moments like this, it's good to reflect on how we might best embrace and make the most of changes in our personal lives. I have a mere 2 minutes to do this, so I've condensed my decades of vast experience into a single short story and a single short poem. I promise I won't take too long. But I am going to share them with you now, and I hope they'll prove helpful to you in your journeys as they have done in mine. The first is the story of a Zen master and a little boy, and it goes something like this. Once upon a time, there's a little boy in a village. On his 14th birthday, he gets a horse as a gift. All the villagers say, "How wonderful, he got a horse." The Zen master says, "We'll see." 2 years later, boy falls off the horse, breaks his leg, walks with a limp for the rest of his life. Villagers say, "How terrible." The Zen master says, "We'll see." A little later, war breaks out. All the men of the village have to go off and fight, except the boy, because of his broken leg. Villagers say, "What a lucky accident." The Zen master says, "We'll see." Now, this story has many times reminded me to be humble and not presume to know more than I do about what the effects of events in life are going to be. We shouldn't be too quick to assign judgments to the changes that take place around us when we can't possibly know what's farther down the road. Even the most joyous days hide unknowable complications, and even the darkest days hide possibilities. It's up to us to make the best of what we're presented with. And the poem is a poem called Habitation by Margaret Atwood. Habitation is not a house or even a tent. It's before that and colder. The edge of the forest, the edge of the desert, the unpainted stairs at the back where we sit outside eating popcorn, the edge of the receding glacier, where painfully and with wonder at having survived even this far, we are learning to make fire. Class of 2022, good luck, Godspeed. May you embrace the changes that await you, and may you learn to make fire in the forests and deserts of your life. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Each year, the graduating class dedicates the yearbooks to someone or a group of people that have an impact on their class. This year, the class of 2022 decided to dedicate the yearbook to some very special people on campus. This year's yearbook dedication goes to the dining hall staff, who work extremely hard to provide us with not only 3 meals a day, but also a warm, welcoming smile no matter the circumstances. Many researchers have shown over the last few years that nutrition is one of the most important tools to succeed and grow as a student. And the dining hall successfully accomplished to serve to all 258 students and even the gluten-free plan to Albi. Each and every day, the dining hall staff goes above beyond their job description to provide us with a well-cooked and delicious meal. While the meals are great, nothing's compared to the people who cook them. When I walk into the dining hall to see Caddy's gleaming face, every day without a doubt, I feel at home. When Mike is so kind to set up every meal and is able to elaborately make everything look so delicious, or when he is willing to take every request any student has, it makes all of us so grateful. Walking into the dish room and seeing Matthew or Cody and hearing their awesome music make me so appreciative of everything they do. When I see Stacy handing out a little treat to all the faculty children, it makes everyone smile. Or when I taste Gail's delicious treat and somehow I can't stop from taking 2 or more. Or when Brian cooks burger on the grill for everyone's and make her springtime's happiness appear. Every single person in the dining hall makes Hebron feel like home. We are so lucky to have all these people who care so much about us. Even when each and every one of them is overworked and sometimes we don't do a very good job cleaning up our plates and cups, they are always so kind to everyone. When thinking about who to dedicate the yearbook to, There seems to be no one better than all the people who run the dining hall, because without them, we'd be pretty hungry. Thank you.
Hello, Hebron community. This year has definitely been a year to remember. For the returning seniors from last year, it was a drastically different year. I remember ending junior year after wearing masks constantly and being required to stay 6 feet apart. I was very anxious for what was to come ahead for my senior year, as I really wanted to have a normal year at Hebron, filled with hockey, and of course, no COVID. I wanted to be able to hang out with my friends in a close group rather than have to be spread out. As I had hoped, this year was a much better year for sure. I have made so many memories here at Hebron Academy over the last 2 years, and I'm very sure that my peers can attest to that. We have had one great ride, my friends. It is now time for me and my fellow classmates to take on our next adventure, whether that be college for most or a gap year for some. Now that may sound sad, and honestly, I may shed a tear or two after this speech and of course graduation, but I am sure everyone in this graduating class can agree that they have made these type of friends that will last a very long time, as this has happened to me. Now on to the reason that I wrote this speech. As many of you may know, the senior class last year donated a pizza oven. And while that is great, I really do believe that our class will top that with our gift this year. This gift has had a lot of thought put into it. Blood, sweat, and tears have gone into the decision around this class gift. I am proud to announce that the class gift of the senior class of 2022 is, drumroll please, a smokeless fire pit. Some of you may be wondering, why in the world would a class gift be a smokeless fire pit? Oh God, I mean, come on. That's a great question, but I'm here to answer that. Yes, COVID was tough, but it did teach us an important lesson. There's nothing like an outdoor fire to bring people together. I am very sure that many seniors can agree that during our years here, even through COVID, many of the most fun moments involved going out to the fire pit with Mr. Bonus and making s'mores. There was so much happiness in each of my peers' eyes while we enjoyed our s'mores and laughed with our friends, even though we were all covered in soot. The big fire pit by the fields gave us the opportunity to meet new people and have lots of fun despite the pandemic. The only problem was the smoke, hence the smokeless fire pit. This smokeless fire pit is not just an ordinary gift. It has a lot of meaning to it. This fireplace stands for family and community. Throughout history, fireplaces have been the center of community and family life. People have used fireplaces to cook, provide heat, and gather during dark and cold nights. The fire pit at Hebron was where I met most of my longtime friends for the first time, and to name a few, including Dan Krall, Ryan Tian, Nick Theodos, Jack Madden, Spiridon Hamze, Anthony Lombardo, Hecky Forder, Noah Parmesan, Fred Asiambre, the hockey team, the Atwood boys, and honestly everyone in my senior class. I have developed so many unique and fulfilling bonds at that fire pit, and I really hope that future generations of lumberjacks will have that same opportunity. Once again, I am so excited to present this class gift for the future generations of Hebron students to enjoy. Thank you to Hebron for making all of our experiences here so memorable and so enjoyable. Hebron will always have a special place in my heart, and I'm sure that it will also be in the hearts of all my friends and classmates. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We will begin this baccalaureate celebration by recognizing the 13 members of the class of 2022 to receive the Hebron Medal. These are seniors who have been members of the class for 4 years or more, a group who have formed the heart and soul of this great class. Please come forward to receive your medal and remain here. We'll hold our applause until after you have received all the medals. Olivia Caggiano. Go ahead and clap, buddy. Jasper Curtis. Ethan Frumiento. Julia Gregory. Calvin Grover. Dylos Lynn in absentia. Emma Newell. Jackson O'Brien. Brendan Pike. Lily Beth Randall. Megan Sipe. Masa Takabayashi. Jessica Tong. It's a good time for a picture. And all of you remember to wear these tomorrow at graduation. Thank you. Next are the awards for academic excellence selected for the junior class. The L. Edward Willard Prize in English is awarded to a member of the junior class to recognize outstanding accomplishment in English. In 2022, awarded to Nola Grace Goodwin. The William Chase Prize in History is awarded to a member of the junior class for outstanding accomplishment in the study of United States history. In 2022, awarded to Abigail Rose McDonald. The Compton Prize in Languages is given to a junior student for passion, persistence, and accomplishment in the study of languages. In 2022, awarded to Nola Grace Goodwin. She's in the back. The following prizes and scholarships are presented to the school by several colleges, organizations, and patrons to honor members of the junior class for academic excellence, extracurricular accomplishments, and leadership. We begin with college books presented to members of the junior class in recognition of excellence in scholarship and personal accomplishment. The Dartmouth Book Award is presented by the Dartmouth Club of Maine to a member of the junior class who combines academic excellence with outstanding accomplishment in another field, such as fine arts and community endeavor. In 2022, awarded to Beatrice Ann Money. The Harvard Book Prizes. The Harvard Book Prizes are given by the Harvard Club of Boston to 2 outstanding members of the junior class who display excellence in scholarship and high character, combined with achievement in other fields. The winners of this award, through their intelligence and variety of achievement, exemplify Harvard's concern for excellence. In 2022, awarded to Nola Grace Goodwin and Han Shangru. Aaron, you might want to hang out for a second. The Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute Medal is given to a member of the junior class for excellence in mathematics and science. The award certificate and details of the medal program will be mailed directly to the recipient later this summer. This year, the Rensselaer Polytech Institute Medal is awarded to Han Shangru. The Williams Book Award is given by the Williams Alumni Association of Maine to a member of the junior class who has demonstrated academic and intellectual leadership and who has contributed in a substantial fashion to the extracurricular life of the school. Awarded in 2022 to Abigail Rose McDonald. The Alumni Book Award is presented by Hebron Academy to a member of the junior class who, in academics, has demonstrated intellectual curiosity, integrity, and a passion for learning, as well as dedication to his or her community, the potential for collaborative leadership, and who is a promising example of how an educated person may contribute to the world community. This year's recipient is Dana Marian Patino Valdiva. The Community Scholarship Prizes are given by the Hebron community in memory of Charlotte Stonebreaker, librarian of Upper Library for more than 2 decades, and are awarded annually to 2 deserving students who have made a positive contribution to the Hebron community and who will be returning to Hebron. This year's recipients are Christina Joan Liu Cashman and Kyron G. Beretta. I'd like to call up Megan Sipe.
Good afternoon. Sometimes words feel arbitrary. We make up sounds to convey how we are feeling, and usually they do a pretty good job. They can describe how our day is going or help us write that AP literature essay, but sometimes they can never do our feelings and thoughts justice. That is true when trying to describe today's speaker. His impact on Hebron's academics, athletics, and individual students is indescribable. The reason I feel at a loss of words is because Mr. Gautier is probably the most complex person I know. He is mildly egotistical yet selfless, compassionate yet painfully cruel at times, both serious to a fault and a light-hearted presence that is needed on campus. But those are only some of the reasons why we chose him to speak today. Mr. Gautier is the type of teacher to let you sit in his classroom and sob about some random inconvenience, and then, when you're ready to hear it, of course, tell you all the hard-to-hear pieces of advice that you know you need. As I come to the end of this journey we have all been on, I realize how many parts of this trip were so impossibly difficult to navigate. Fitting in freshman year, being taken seriously as a sophomore, figuring out our life as a junior, and then making it all a reality as a senior. All that was almost impossible. However, teachers like Mr. Gautier is the reason we all survive those life challenges. They can be the ones to give you a shoulder to cry on, space to vent, and share all the knowledge in the world to help you navigate your way through life. He sounds pretty great, huh? Usually, when someone talks about a teacher like this, they can pinpoint that one moment in time where that teacher did something for them or gave them a piece of life-changing advice. But I don't have that with Mr. Gautier. I have a million moments spread across 3 years where I walk into his classroom, plop myself down into a chair, and a conversation spontaneously begins. He has given me so much of his time, and I know it is something he gives to others as well. Gautier is the kind of person I can have a conversation with and always learn something new, which is why I and all of you should be excited to hear what he has to say today. I thought about calling this the last piece of advice I will ever get from Mr. Gautier, but instead I'm going to listen and realize it is just him wishing us all the best, knowing he has given us all he can to prepare us for the world. I can't believe I didn't just break down into tears, but please help me welcome Mr. Gautier.
As good as I look standing up here, if you don't mind, I'm going to take this off. This is how you know me, right? Okay. If you do know me, you know I respect my father-in-law greatly. He is a brilliant businessman and an even better father and husband. He told me once that every great speech has 5 parts. If you really know me, you also know my favorite thing in the world is upstaging my father-in-law. So I think I can do this in 4 parts. Part 1 of Mr. Gautier's, it says this, exquisite, no-nonsense, talking in front of people moment. A welcome. Thank you, Megan, Hebron Academy class of 2022, and everyone else for your words today. Words cannot describe how honored I am to be here right now. Honored, I think, is the right word. I think that's it. I'm 65% sure honored is the word I'm looking for there. I do know for a fact that when you picked me, and remember, you picked me, I felt a surge of something. It's difficult to describe, and I think I'll come back to that at the end of this. Anyway, I spent a lot of time thinking about you, the graduating senior class. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did other things too. I'm a very important person with a lot of important things to do, and you're all not that important, grand scheme of things, you know. But you certainly warranted 10 to 15 minutes of my time, so In those 10 to 15 minutes, I came up with a couple conclusions about all of you and a few pieces of advice. The last advice I've got. But before we get to that, what do we have? I believe we have part 2. That was fast. Part 2 of Mr. Gaudier's never-ending, you know you love it, so be quiet speech. A short story. Have you ever tried to remember an entire day of your life from beginning to end? Maybe some of you do that. I really can't. Not well, anyway. In fact, there are only a few days in my life I can confidently say I remember completely. The day I met my wife when I was 20. My wife is here and she'd want me to say that. My wedding day, what a perfect day. My wife is here and she would want me to say that. And maybe the day my daughter was born. My daughter is here, and if she could understand English, she would absolutely want me to say that. Truthfully, though, the first day I can remember in its entirety was my first day at boarding school when I was 14 in the year 2002. This is what happened. I arrived early that morning. I helped my parents unpack my room, first floor, Barton dormitory. I met the faculty on the floor, Mr. Shalaba, baseball coach, and, at the time, Williams College home runs in a season record holder. Then I met Jeff with a G, and Kyle. Kyle was a skier from Vermont, and Jeff was a tennis player from Florida. Jeff's older brother was a senior, and Jeff asked Kyle and I if we would go to see his brother's room. I immediately told my parents that I would see them at Thanksgiving, and they left. In Jeff's brother's room, I fed his fish. I got a soda from the mini fridge. I tried to catch up on all the boarding school lingo that I didn't know, coming from a public school in Maine. After learning that Hella was very 2001, I met my junior Green Key mentor, Greg Kloshkoff. He took me to my first sit-down meal of my 4 years there. At that meal, I sat with Sarita Pitt. Her family owned a ranch in Texas larger than the state of Rhode Island. I sat with Greg, I sat with Jamie Stone, and Mrs. Matthews, who was on a one-year teacher exchange with a school in South Africa. She told us her nephew was a musician and he would be coming to perform later that year. It took me about a month to figure out that would be Dave Matthews. After dinner, we went to the lower levels and jumped in the river. That night, there was a bonfire. I met Tracy, another freshman, and she would turn into my best friend for 4 years. That night, I stayed up with Davis, Bryant, Brooks until 3 or 4 in the morning. Davis was from the Fessenden School in Massachusetts. Brooks was from New Hampshire and played soccer with me, and Bryant was from San Francisco. I think you guys get the point. There isn't an unaccounted for second of that day 20 years ago. I wasn't sure at the time why, but something told me this would be a day that changed my life forever. And of course, it did. I spent 4 years living away from home, away from my parents. I spent 4 years eating food in a dining hall, living with other students from around the United States and the world. I spent afternoons in mandatory sports practices, doing community service, crushing SAT prep classes. I spent 4 years of weeknights studying for European history tests, complaining about chemistry homework, staying up until 3 a.m. with Garrett and Robert because there were 2 other people in their room and I couldn't be the first to go to bed. I spent weekends going to the fields after dark, going to Sadie Hawkins dances, playing poker in the dorm until the sun rose, watching movies, and wandering campus trying to find all the secret routes from one building to another. I spent 4 years doing all those things, and at the end, I couldn't wait to leave. I was so ready. Freedom was in my grasp. College was always the goal, and I was going. I told myself, my friends, and my family I had gotten everything I needed, and the future was infinite possibility. Any of that sound familiar to you? In a lot of ways, all that was right. I needed to move on to progress, to continue my education, to become the best version of myself. What I failed to do, and what I suspect a lot of you have failed to do, was appreciate. I was so focused on what was next, I didn't think about what I had just been through. I spent 4 years with people who challenged me. I spent 4 years developing my character, not just my intellect. I spent 4 years being nurtured and developed by teachers who only wanted the best for each of their students. I spent 4 years learning that each person Each friend, each teacher is so much more than their public persona. I spent 4 years with some of the greatest people I will ever know. I spent 4 years figuring out who I was. And you've all been through some piece of that. Some of you have been here a year, some of you for 7. Even though you will all be starting something new in the fall, you'll bring something from your experience here with you. For me, it was everything. For you, it may be more, maybe less, but it'll be something. Looking back and learning to appreciate what happened to you here will guide you through your next steps, your new beginnings. Part 3 of Mr. Gaudier's all-time wonderful talking in front of people who are required to be there moment. Some advice and observations. Here's a quote. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. For you all, this comes with a caveat. Observation number 1. You want to change the world with the least amount of effort involved. Oh my God, did Mr. Gaudier just call us lazy? Yep. Let me promise you something right now. That was not an insult though. What I mean by least amount of effort is you want to use the shortest route, the most efficient method to achieve the most amount of change. Yes, undoubtedly, some of you are supremely lazy, but I prefer to see that as you waiting for the right idea or the correct method to present itself before you engage. Sounds nice. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think I am. Let me offer some wisdom to all of you, given that I've just diagnosed you with having grandiose and naive visions of the future. Somewhat related to new beginnings, change is hard. It's not more complicated than that. Change is just not something we like, even though we say we want it all the time. Think about that for a second. We all, adults, children, petulant high school seniors, complain constantly that we want things to be different. Change for the better is the thing that is always out of our grasp, but we continue to reach for, right? But what happens as soon as something in reality changes? We push back. Why change what was working? That's not how it used to be. I wish people would stop messing with tradition. I hear all those a lot here. If we were all honest with ourselves, we would know this happens because change is not easy. It makes us uncomfortable. We are, whether we like to admit it or not, creatures of habit, every one of us. So why bring this up? They say the first step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. We don't like change. You will have countless opportunities in the coming years after you leave this place to affect real change. Teachers always say that, and guess what? We're right. Live in that moment of change and embrace the feelings that make you uncomfortable. Fight back against the urge to do what is safe and familiar. Whew. That's excellent advice. I should have charged admission for this. This is great. Okay, so all that being said, that took about 5 minutes of the 10 to 15 minutes I was going to spend on you. So next I thought this, and this advice comes with a little bit of a longer quote. We are all a little weird, and we like to think there's always someone weirder. I mean, I'm sure some of you are looking at me and thinking, well, at least I'm not as weird as you. And I am thinking, well, at least I'm not as weird as people in the loony bin. And the people in the loony bin are thinking, well, at least I'm an orange. For some reason that spoke to me. So here's the advice. Weird things are awesome, so be weird. I know how that sounds and why that isn't the best advice to give people who have, for the most part, just spent 4 years trying to fit in. I can promise you the best things in life will be the weirdest. Your friend asks you to start a cooking show with him, do it. You never know what the content-starved entertainment industry will be into. Biggest regret of my life is that I'm not the title character in Goat Cooks Goat on a Boat. or tanning tips with the human lobster. You guys would watch those shows, come on. Another example, your cousin that you don't talk to asks you for a loan. First thing to do, find out what it's for. Then say no. Then tell your family why weird cousin Alec is no longer invited to family reunions. More seriously, your professor in your alternative medicine class asks you to interview a fellow at the hospital about their work using natural body energy to prevent the spread of communicable diseases. Super weird. Do it. And you may have a new friend that you've communicated with once or twice a month since 2009. I'll say it again, weird things are awesome. I don't know where each of you will end up. I don't think any serious person would have any clue right now. I do know the story of how you get from here to there will be peppered with weird experiences, and it should be. Like change, embrace those weird moments. In my experience, happiness and weirdness are inextricably linked. Last part of part 3 of Mr. Gaudier's, wow, I can't believe I get to tell my grandchildren I heard this speech. All kidding aside, I am so incredibly proud of you all. But enough about you. I have been told repeatedly that this is my big day. Now, I am known for several things here at Hebron, some good, some excellent. What I believe I am best known for, other than having all my investments tied up in a certain vineyard-based clothing company, is being honest to a fault. I tend not to sugarcoat anything and give my real appraisal of almost any situation. I dislike, more than anything, disingenuity. I looked it up, it's a real word. I have no time, nor do I have any patience for people who are less than 90% genuine. So when I tell you all that I am proud, know that it is the truth. The time we have spent together with each other is special. It isn't and shouldn't be replicable. It's unique. While writing this, spending considerably more than 10 or 15 minutes on it, I really thought about what you all have done and what it means for you as individuals, what it means for you as members of the Hebron community, what it means to your families, and ultimately, what it means to me. For me, I got to spend the past 3 years learning about acceptance from people half my age. I got to spend the past 3 years helping confused, often adrift children find themselves as young adults. I got to spend 3 years seeing the absolute best in all of you. I got to spend 3 years learning even more about myself through you. If you get nothing else out of your high school experience, know that you did all that for me, and pride doesn't actually come close to being able to describe how much that means. Part 4 of Mr. Gaudier's emotion-filled, tear-jerking talk about how much this class means to him, a finishing passage. Someone told me once that you should end a speech with somebody else's words because they said it best, and why try and reinvent the wheel? So here it is, my parting words to you all. Sometimes fate is like a small sandstorm that keeps changing directions. You change direction, but the sandstorm chases you. You turn again, but the storm adjusts. Over and over you play this out like some ominous dance with death just before dawn. Why? Because this storm isn't something that blew in from far away, something that has nothing to do with you. This storm is you, something inside of you. So all you can do is give in to it. Step right inside that storm, closing your eyes and plugging your ears so the sand doesn't get in, and walk through it step by step. There's no sun there, no moon, no direction, no sense of time, just white sand swirling up into the sky like pulverized bones. That's the kind of sandstorm you need to imagine. And you really will have to make it through that violent, metaphysical, symbolic storm. No matter how metaphysical or symbolic it might be, make no mistake about it, it will cut through flesh like 1,000 razor blades. People will bleed there, and you will bleed too. You'll catch that blood in your hands, your own blood and the blood of others, and once that storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure, in fact, whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in, and that's what this storm is all about. Thank you.
congratulate everyone who received their awards today and thank all the speakers who stood here before me. I will do my best to leave you with some words of wisdom, but know that public speaking is not my favorite thing. When Miss Warner first invited me to deliver the benediction, my initial response was absolutely not. No way is that happening. However, after spending several hours trying to figure out a respectful decline, I realized that one of the qualities I try to impart on my students, advisees, peers, and children is to push your way out of your comfort zone. This is how we grow. By pushing our limits, taking risks, and stretching our minds, we allow ourselves to face challenges we never thought possible. Life is too short to let fear hold you back. As many of you know, I lost my mom a couple years ago. The two biggest things she ever taught me were to always be kind, because you never know what somebody else is going through, and to always try new things, even if you're terrified. My whole life, I followed a path I thought I wanted. I always wanted to make my parents proud. I didn't want to break the social norms, and schooling came easy to me. I was an honors high school student, and after graduation, went straight into college, and was planning to go right into graduate school to become a physician's assistant. And after a couple setbacks, I found my opportunity and enrolled in graduate school. I chose to become a PA, not because it was my passion, but because my mother's cancer journey, I saw the impact that they can have on patients and patients' families' lives. I wanted to have that type of impact on others. However, I began my graduate career for 2 weeks and realized I wasn't loving it, and I was unsure if being a physician assistant was really something I wanted anymore. I had never deviated from the path before. I had never really quit anything that mattered. So when I decided to take a break from school, it was terrifying for me and a shock to my family. However, it didn't matter. My family supported me 100%, and the fear was for naught. If I hadn't taken the break, I would not have found my passion in teaching, and I would not be standing up here today. We have a saying in our house, you can't be brave if you aren't a little scared. Being a person who is unafraid is not realistic. You will always be faced with some sort of challenge. However, being a person who isn't controlled by your fear is possible. You have all faced many challenges and fears over the last several years due to COVID. You already know you're capable of overcoming more than you ever thought possible. So as I prepare to send you out on your next adventure, I want to ask you a question. What would you do if you weren't afraid? Would you take that summer internship? Would you become a doctor or a teacher? Maybe take a gap year? Travel the world? Start a business? I'm excited to see who you will become, the changes that you will make to the world, and I hope to see you all step out of your comfort zone and achieve greatness. You never know what the outcome of that venture may be. You could find a new friend, skill, or invent something new. Either way, I'll be here rooting for you. And remember, you can't be brave if you aren't a little scared.
Thank you all for coming to Baccalaureate. Seniors, families, I'm looking forward to seeing you over at the Williams Center for senior dinner. And it is my joy to say this one last time, seniors first.
Yo creo que ya están listos.
Am I sweating?